Most couples think that love is enough, but even the most thoughtful, beautiful, in love couples can start to drift if they are misaligned in purpose. It's extremely important for you to have purpose in your intimate relationship so that you can maintain your creativity, your focus, and be happy and fulfilled.
You know, the reason that life and love purpose is a primary skill in your relationship, in your intimate relationship, is because it answers a few questions. Number one, really, people talk about the relationship timeline. So as achievers, as leaders, we always want to be results driven, right? So when we come into relationships, people want to know, how long does it take for us to court? How long does it take for us to commit? How long before proposal and marriage? And how long are we going to be in respective phases of life? And as leaders, we need to have a working idea. Obviously, we want to be flexible, but we need to have a working idea. So purpose gives us that. Purpose also gives us context for dealing with some of the rough times in a relationship, because there are times when we don't like the person who we love, and we need productive activity versus destructive activity to keep us aligned and contributing positively to the relationship, even in those rough times. And so purpose gives us that. But purpose ultimately protects us from the strain that naturally happens in an overconsumption culture, in a burnout culture, and in a culture where we don't always have community to give us perspective or distinction. So purpose gives us a lot, and it's very, very important that we develop that skill and then operate it during our relationship cycle.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that you need purpose in whatever you do, but
Absolutely.
It's such a full kind of topic that we often don't know how to ground it and make it more relatable. And when you can align your purpose for yourself, right, and for your relationship, it actually makes other things easier. So I think 3 big areas in the intimate relationship that aligned purpose can really help enhance is, 1, your communication. So sometimes we don't realize that everything we say has a purpose, and it may not be what it seems like superficially. Even if a person says, hey, how was your day at work, right? It might not be that they want to know the details of work. It could be they just want to connect. It might not be that they even want to connect with you. It could be that they want some attention from you, right? So what's important in communication is that we learn to read in between the lines. What's different in intimate communication compared to business communication is we often know the purpose in business communication. So when we get an email, it's like, hey, the purpose of this email is XYZ. When we get a phone call, we're like, hey, I'm just reaching out to fill in the blank, right? Or if someone doesn't say that, we say, what's the purpose of this email and what's the purpose of this phone call?
Right.
In the intimate relationship, that would be cold.
Right.
If every time your partner came up to you like, well, why are you talking to me?
Right.
Right. So this is the space where we have to be able to communicate with purpose. When we're the speaker, we need to really know what it is and deliver quickly and deliver efficiently. And when we're the listener, we have to be able to read in between the lines and learn our partner so that we don't have miscommunications that can lead to a greater conflict, right? Another major area that purpose helps to enhance is intimacy and sex, right? There's a reason why we want the connection. There's a way that we want the connection. There's a reason why, the intimacy and sex is a major part of the intimate relationship. This is what keeps you from just being business partners or just being friends or just being like roommates, right? This is a major area of the intimate relationship. And I think, one of the greatest areas that purpose can help you enhance is your long-term vision for your intimate relationship. So I think sometimes in the beginning, you may have an idea of why you want to be with someone. And a lot of times it's a little selfish. So beyond attraction and beyond the love that initially magnetizes you, you have to have an aligned vision and a long-term purpose for your relationship rather than the immediate. Just as Masha was saying, there are going to be times when the immediate purpose is just not hitting like it was in the beginning. And that's really a signal to level up. Similar to when we're in business, right? If we reach a plateau, it's time to make a change. In an intimate relationship, we don't really learn that. So we say, hey, it's a plateau. People come to us as relationship counselors and they say, we're drifting apart. We grew apart, as though it's a one-time thing that just happened, right? In having a aligned vision that's long-term, what you're able to say is, this is what we want to happen in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. And then we can walk it back to what has to happen today and tomorrow, right, in order for that to happen. So your communication, your intimacy and sex, and your long-term vision of your relationship is all going to be enhanced if you have an aligned vision with your partner. And the way that we go about that in Akoma SOUL is, SOUL stands for self, other, understanding, love, legacy. So the very first element is, do you know your purpose? And do you actually remember it? A lot of times we are confused trying to find our purpose, or we're trying to battle with what someone told us we should be doing. And what is really our reason for being, and what's the most effective way to make money, and what's the way we're going to have the biggest impact. But the truth is, from a Black perspective, we come here with a personality. We come here with certain strengths and certain challenges that are going to be beneficial for how we're going to live and exchange in the world. And purpose is not just, I'm a teacher, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's not really a career.
It's not a career, and it's not a one-time title, and it's not fixed, right? Your purpose is your way of delivering the skills that you have, that some of them come naturally as a strength and a talent. Some of them are refined based on your challenges. And what we help people do is get through kind of like an inventory of what that is, so that you can actually remember and re-embody. Sometimes we're actually guided away from our strengths and challenges because it just doesn't fit in whatever we think is going to be the most effective way to exist, or the most effective way to be in a relationship. But that is not what's going to help, because eventually we're going to want to go back to that. So we're either going to drift apart, or we're going to stay away from that and never really be our full self in the intimate relationship. So it's extremely important to be able to make it through an inventory on what are your strengths, and what are your purpose, and what are your challenges, and how can you use that as your purpose. And we often don't know those things because strengths can kind of come easy, and we can make an assumption that it comes easy for others. Challenges can seem like a hurdle that we've come through, and something that is kind of in the past, and we don't really realize the skills that we gained through our challenges. So this is what we help people to do in Akoma SOUL, so that when you know your individual purpose, when you remember what it is, you can better harmonize with the same work that your partner would have gone through in knowing their strengths and challenges. That reduces the conflict and definitely adds to better communication, the better intimacy and sex, and easy understanding of the fusion for a long-term vision.
Yeah, I think that's really profound. When we first started doing this work so many years ago, I realized that so many people have this kind of anxiety around this conversation of purpose. And I think it's a reflection of the cultural comparison of where we are as a people in a culture that we built, but it's run by values that are not our own. And so it's really interesting because we have this serious identity conflict going on, right? But I remember just talking to people, clients so many years ago, and whenever you would bring up the conversation of purpose, you would get this like deer in the headlight kind of reaction. And as I began to perceive it, I would ask people what's up with purpose? Like what is your issue around it? And I found that many people were afraid to explore this concept because they didn't want to find out that, hey, maybe I'm not living in my purpose. Which is a natural feeling, because so many people are, they're excelling at things that bring in money and other things for them access, but they don't feel fulfilled in that this is something that's making their heart and mind and body thrive in terms of their contribution with their life. And so I found that a lot of people were anxious around this conversation, and they didn't want to talk about purpose. Or if they did, their knee-jerk reaction would be, well, I work with children, and so I know I'm in my purpose because I love children. And that's what my purpose was, to come here and have a job as a teacher or a professor. Again, a purpose isn't a job. It isn't something like that. It's an energy. It's a descriptive function that you bring. So it would never be, I'm a governor or I'm a judge. That's not a purpose, right? That is a means to executing your purpose. Mm-hmm. And what you see over a course of a life is the means of executing your purpose will change multiple times over your life. But what your purpose is does not ever change. Right. But a more comforting thought is that we were taught by our teachers that there's no such thing as a person who isn't on their purpose, but there is a plethora of people who don't know what their purpose is. And so part of this can be a little unsettling, but a part of it should be reassuring, because if you're alive and you're living, you are actually on your purpose. Now we have to help you figure out what it is and then figure out how to activate it. And in this premier relationship skills building program that we call Akoma SOUL, self, others, understanding love legacy, understanding love systems, we systemize this process, because what you know as a leader in your profession is that when we have a system for a thing, you proofs that thing, so where you might be heavy-handed and overbear your strengths, or where you might recoil and reduce your output, a system will allow you to balance and develop yourself, the way you need to be developed. And so in the Akoma SOUL program, one of the things that we do is help you to hone in your identity, understand from the life cycle of your development who you are and why you are that person. That's a very, very important part in your purpose.
Yeah, and if you want to get the first part of that, you can check the description and download the Life and Love Alignment worksheet. It'll guide you through a little bit of what we offer in the Akoma SOUL program. If you are interested in checking out the Akoma SOUL program, then you can absolutely also check the description and see the link to get a little bit more information about the next cohort.
So we look forward to serving you, and as always, we wait to see what the purpose of this call is. And we're looking forward to serving you. Until that time, as always, we're greeting you in peace, and we're saying,
Ni Akoma.
Ni Akoma.